Hello everyone and welcome to the Rundown. Thanks to AGL for all your energy needs. Go to agl.com.au. Huge game tonight. It is, of course, the West Coast Eagles hosting Collingwood. Eagles going for 5 in a row against the Magpies. It is a massive game at 6:10. Joining me, of course, Ryan Daniels from 7 News. Has been very busy man with Man United. And, of course, Premiership player and Norm Smith medalist Andrew Embley. Just quickly, been a big week for the biggest team, second biggest team in Perth at the moment.
I was going to say the biggest footy club in the world this year, and also Man U. It has been big. They travel big. They've got like a massive staff. There's journalists from all over the world here, Netherlands, England. It's pretty crazy what they do, and they draw a massive crowd.
Yeah, looking forward to it. Now, looking forward to this game, but last week, let's reflect quickly on the Derby result.
Well, I asked Usain Bolt after the 200-metre final in Beijing what his thoughts on the race were. He looked at the journalist and he said, it was neck and neck. Then the gun went off. And that's exactly what happened on the weekend. It was neck and neck early. It was. The scores were level, and then West Coast just went bang. 8 goals to zip in that second quarter was something to behold. It was really wonderful to watch. They have set themselves up, haven't they, really well at the moment. The timing for the West Coast Eagles is absolutely perfect.
You had two footy clubs going in completely different directions. You've got Fremantle, who are stuttering, losses to Melbourne, losses to Carlton, wheels are falling off, injuries are piling up. And you've got West Coast, who have just flicked that switch. 8 wins out of 9 games, just running on all RAC power. All their stars are back. They are absolutely flying. It was a tale of two teams.
West Coast and Collingwood tonight at Optus Stadium. In regards to rivalry, and we know that the Eagles' rivalry of when you were playing against the Sydney Swans, where does this game sit in regards to the toughest games of the year, and what's at stake this year and the rivalry between the two, right?
I think it's a massive game, make no mistake. It's probably bigger for Collingwood. This is really their top 4, their top 2 definitely goes on the line tonight. If they don't win this game, they can kiss that goodbye. And if they don't win this game, they can almost kiss top 4 goodbye. And we know how important that is. So it's a huge game for Collingwood. We haven't quite seen the West Coast Sydney closeness over a long enough period of time. But it's pretty clear that these two teams are both going to be around the mark for at least a couple of years. They've had some epic finals already. It's not, I wouldn't say it's the biggest game of the year. I think the one earlier in the season in round 3 was. Bigger stage, you know, enemy territory for West Coast. They turn up and they get the job done and show that it wasn't a fluke. So I think that was probably bigger. But for Collingwood, this might be bigger.
But aren't the stakes huge for West Coast here? Because if they win this game, they get that 2-game break predominantly, making sure that Port Adelaide beat Brisbane, I think, is the other part of the equation. But West Coast win 2 games clear in the back end, a top 2 spot, 2 home finals. It's starting to look pretty.
Well, West Coast, every time West Coast have finished in the top 2, which has been 6 times in their career, they've played in the grand final every single year. That's how big it is for the West Coast Eagles. I understand about Collingwood as well. They want to keep their chances alive, but Collingwood can finish 4th and still make a grand final because they might get another game in Melbourne. But for the West Coast Eagles, it's almost your ticket to the AFL grand final day. They're in some good form at the moment. And as you mentioned, they win tonight and Port Adelaide beat Brisbane, then suddenly they've got a 2-game buffer in second spot.
And GWS playing Richmond as well, which is no easy feat. Richmond were fantastic on the weekend, so it is all starting to just open up really nicely for West Coast.
No doubt. Look, one thing that's been a constant at Collingwood has been the form and the ruck role of Brodie Grundy. He basically does it on his own. He gets a pinch hit every now and then. West Coast have turned them over through injuries and whatever reason. Of course, the grand final combination of Vardy and Lysett got over the top of him. Round 3, we talked about that. It was Hickey and Vardy, and now it's Nat Nui and Hickey. What combination do you like, and where do you think this is going to be played out tonight?
I think that's the one area where Collingwood have a huge advantage. I think Nick Nat's been back 2 games now. He's been pretty good in patches, but he can't play long stretches yet. He's barely played over 55% in a game. So you had McAvoy and Segler, not world beaters. You had Sandy coming off a year absence and Lobb coming off injury. So Freo's rucks weren't exactly flying. Brodie Grundy's the best ruckman in the competition. He's in his.
Do you think so?
He is, absolutely. Who's better?
Max Gorman?
No, for me it's Brodie Grundy by a street.
I agree.
You got 20 disposals a game. He marks. His clearances are fantastic. He's a great tap ruckman, and he gets around the ground and he makes them work. And that's the hardest thing because Hickey's not super mobile, and Nick Nat is not quite at peak fitness yet. So that's where Collingwood, if they're going to somehow steal this game, it's because Brodie Grundy's going to be absolutely best on ground.
You happy with the combo?
I'm happy with the combo, and what I liked about the combo last week was Hickey's ability to be able to move forward and take a couple of marks, and that we spoke about is going to be the key for the West Coast Eagles, because you expect as the season goes on, Nick's going to spend more time around the ground, which means that second ruckman is going to have to somehow play forward and be able to take a mark, which Hickey did. The fact that Nick Nat is starting to get some games together at the moment, get a bit of continuity, I think he's becoming absolutely so crucial to that setup through the midfield for the West Coast Eagles.
It's interesting you talk about the last 2 weeks in regards to the Hawthorn game and, of course, what we saw with Sandlands last week for Nick Naitanui. It's been a perfect comeback for him, though, hasn't it? It's given him enough time. He plays 50% of game time. I think that's where they're happy with him at the moment, 50% of game time. But the fact is he's had 2 games. No disrespect to those ruckmen. They've all been good, loyal, hard workers in their time. We talked about Segler and McAvoy and Sandlands and the like. But it's been perfect for Naitanui to come back to the AFL system to have those 2 games under his belt ahead of this game tonight.
And don't be surprised if that wasn't part of the plan. And I'm not saying they disrespected Hawthorn or Fremantle, but if you're West Coast and you're looking and mapping out when does Nick Nat return, what's the best way for him? Well, let's pick a couple of games here. Maybe we could have gone a week earlier or held off a week later, but let's go Hawthorn, because then we know they don't have a dominant ruck. We know Fremantle don't have a dominant ruck. And then he's ready for Brodie Grundy on the 3rd week in. Collingwood, big game. So I think, don't be surprised if that wasn't part of the plan all along.
Question without notice then for both of you. Going forward to the end of the year, would you want Nick Naitanui leading your ruck or Brodie Grundy leading your ruck?
For mine, it's Nick Naitanui. I know you guys will say Brodie Grundy, but this is the reason why I'm going to say Nick Nat right now, is that he has changed the whole dynamics of that midfield group. In the last 2 weeks since he's been back, taking into consideration, as you said before, he's played 50% game time. West Coast are in plus 60 odd in clearances. That's around one particular guy coming in and having an impact. Now, don't worry about those people that want to say that Nick Naitanui doesn't take enough marks, because don't worry about what Nick Nat can't do, because what he can do, there has not been a ruckman in the competition in my time and probably your time that can do the things that Nick Nat does. He is a special person, and he is going to continue to get better and better and better. And I can guarantee you one thing, Nick Nat, I would love to be at his feet hitting the ball to me.
I'm the staunchest Nick Nat supporter around.
We all are.
I will not find one stronger. But there is absolutely no way you can pick him over Brodie Grundy at this point. Any of the other ruckmen you could make an argument for, but Brodie Grundy is so dominant. Yes, Nick Nat is perfect for this West Coast Eagles midfield. Yes, at full fitness, you would take Nick Naitanui because of what he is. But he's playing at the moment half game time. He's coming off 2 knee reconstructions. There is risk involved in that. We don't know if there's going to be a setback at any point. What happens if it gets to the finals and he's not good to go? Brodie Grundy barely misses a game. Yes, this is a hypothetical question. We can't trade them.
The whole segment's hypothetical. I don't know if you know that.
We can't trade them. So I see what you're saying, and I agree with a lot of it. But in the end of the day, you cannot ignore Brodie Grundy. He's going to be the All-Australian ruckman again. So it has to be him.
Maybe not. Maybe Max Gawn, according to you.
Well, what happened when Melbourne and Collingwood played last time together? Collingwood smashed Melbourne, and what happened? Max Gawn was without doubt the best ruckman on the ground.
Mate, your whole argument's getting blown out of the water if you're telling me Gawn's going to be picked ahead of Grundy.
I'm not saying he will, but in that particular day when they went head-to-head, he was better.
Forward 5. Let's talk about the forward 5. If you could cherry-pick the best 5 forwards in this game tonight and their importance to a success, give me the 5, Ryan.
This is going to start fights, isn't it?
No, this is good. This is good.
So compiling my list, I was surprised because I've never done. This is a really good exercise. People who are listening and watching, try this because it's quite tough. And I put Jaden Stevenson in brackets because I would have had him pretty high up in this, but he's not playing. Jordan De Goey is number 1 because he is a genuine single match winner in that goal square. Whoever's playing on him, whether it be Brad Shepherd or Tom Cole, is going to be terrified for 4 straight quarters, as is everybody who plays against Jordan De Goey. But after Jordan De Goey, I've got 4 West Coast Eagles, and that's why they're going to win the game because it's going to be a team mentality. It's that synergy they have in that forward line. Darling 2nd, Kennedy 3rd, Willie Rioli 4th, and Jamie Cripps 5th. And you could have talked me into Cripps ahead of Rioli because he's in such good form.
My argument is actually quite similar to yours. So my number 1 at the moment is De Goey as well. My number 2 is Mason Cox. And the reason why I say, listen to me, listen to my argument.
Since the prelim.
Listen to my argument. We're talking about importance to their side. De Goey and Mason Cox are the 2 most important players because there's no depth in that Collingwood team. So if those 2 players don't hit the scoreboard tonight, Collingwood can't win. So that's why those 2 guys are absolutely crucial tonight for their respective clubs.
Then Collingwood's not going to win then on that because Mason Cox should be playing in the VFL.
No, but he has to play tonight because he has to keep those West Coast Eagles defenders accountable. There was absolutely no question that Mason Cox wasn't going to play tonight. He has to be out there and he has to hit the scoreboard. On the back of that, Darling, number 3, I think he's taken over JK just for the moment. And this bloke over here wanted to get rid of him 6 weeks ago, Jack Darling. So Jack Darling's kicked 9 goals his last 2 games. JK number 4 and Cripps number 5. Now, the thing is, if 2 of those 3 West Coast Eagles players don't hit the scoreboard, we haven't even spoken about Ryan, we haven't spoken about Rioli. Cameron's in good form. The Eagles can get their goals from anywhere. Oscar Allen as well. So that's the reason why I've got 2 Collingwood players at the top, because if De Goey and Mason Cox don't fire tonight, no chance Collingwood.
I've just heard from Michael Braun, who said that his top 5 is Jamie Cripps, Jamie Cripps, Jamie Cripps. Mine's DeGoey, Darling, Kennedy. I've got Mychek. Mychek gets on the scoreboard. If he kicks 3 or 4 goals, in fact, if he kicks 3, they win every time. So he's a hard beast. He's a big-bodied man and he's hard to match up on. And yes, I think you've got to have Cripps in there as well. All-Australian. Everyone's talking about All-Australian. All-Australian squad of 40's got to be selected, and then you've got to cull it down and the like. Who are the locks? Who are the locks for the West Coast Eagles right now? If Michael Braun is not a selector, who would you be picking in your All-Australian for the West Coast Eagles?
My locks at the moment are McGovern and Shannon Hearn. Luke Shuey are definitely locks. So those 3. I think Yo is really, really close for 4th. And they're my locks. Those 4 are my locks, yeah.
Lock?
My locks are Hearn and Yo. I only have 2 absolute locks because of the disrespect constantly shown by those guys voting on the All-Australian. Not because they shouldn't be there.
You think Yo got ahead of Shuey at the moment?
Yo gets in because he was already in last year. They don't even know who Luke Shuey is on the other side of the country. 2015,
he's a Norm Smith medalist. They know who he is.
For him right now. 2015, he should have been All-Australian. He should have absolutely been in that team. And that's not the only time. He has missed out more than one occasion.
He will be All-Australian this year. No doubt about it.
He absolutely deserves to be. What I'm saying is every single year there's somebody from either West Coast or Fremantle who deserves to be in that team who is not in that team. For me, they're going to overlook Luke. I could just see it. They're going to overlook Luke Shuey again, and I'm going to be livid about it.
There is no chance.
Yeah, well, I agree with you. I'm not so sure about Yo, to be brutally honest with you. I've got Shuey, Hearn, and I've also got McGovern, and I just have a gut feeling of my guts is churning that Shepherd's going to miss out, and he should be in as well.
He should be.
That's the one I'm saying Shepherd's going to miss out too. Now, for mine, Shepherd's probably leading West Coast Eagles best and fairest this year. Been absolutely massive. But can you fit?
Pretty sure I tipped that.
I think you might have tipped that at the start of the year.
Oh, you might have tipped that, yeah. I might have tipped Barris too, who was going to win it until he got injured. But Shepherd, for mine, should be in it. But when you look at Hearn, you look at McGovern. Hearn will be captain, by the way.
Should be.
Oh, don't bet on it, mate.
Oh, he will be
Don't bet on it. If Buddy Franklin's anywhere near this.
But can they fit 3 defenders, West Coast Eagles defenders, in a back line? Unfortunately for me, if they don't, then Shepherd's the one that misses out.
Yeah. That's always the issue because it'll be.
But the half back line could be Hearn, McGovern, Shepherd.
Yeah.
And there's a question. There's a question there in a couple of weeks for the great West Coast Eagles half back lines that we've had a couple of over the years. Maybe the producers can put something like that in because that's a great question.
Yeah,
we can talk
tough
about.
One.
Yes.
Andrew Gaff.
Well, he's leading the average disposals.
He's had a big year.
Yeah. Maybe just name
Dom
the
Sheet.
Eagles 22.
Dom Sheet's had a fair year as well on numbers alone. You won't get in.
You can't fit them in, yeah.
Well, I don't know. If we're picking them, we've got about 9 in so far, and Brad Shepherd will certainly be in it as well. Looking forward to that one. All righty, let's get our attention to tonight's fixture and who wins and why.
Well, West Coast win. I just think at the moment they're pairing really nicely. Their back line is as good as any back line in the competition. In fact, they're daylight second. I reckon they are just starting to come together. Barris was huge last week. Just his ability just to be able to play a role in there and shut down the best 4. He'll get the job of Mason Cox tonight. Just allows McGovern and Shepherd to do what they do really well. Their midfield have got so much depth through there now, as we know, and their forward line is the most potent forward line in the competition. So the combination of everything coming together at the moment for the West Coast Eagles is good. Their draw in the second half of the year has really opened up. They get Collingwood probably at a good time. Collingwood have got a couple of young guys debuting tonight, so it's a really good opportunity to win tonight, go almost 2 games clear in second spot and really set themselves up for the rest of the season.
There's 2 glaring problems for Collingwood. One, Mason Cox is playing. I understand you say he needs to, but he has not touched the ball in weeks, and he will not touch the ball tonight. Barris and McGovern will make
Doesn't need to, but just needs to compete.
They're also playing a bloke who was playing in the VFL 3 weeks ago in Noble. So I think there's some big issues with their injuries, and they're out of form woefully. West Coast is going to win this game by 4 goals. I have zero doubt they're going to win.
Kennedy and Cole in, of course, and out Duggan and Archie, unfortunately, both out through injury. Just a quick one too, on Sunday, if you're not doing anything, head to Mineral Resources Park for the waffle action. It is the West Coast Eagles and Westbirds. It's a bit of an open day. You can get along and see the new home of the West Coast Eagles. Get along and have a look at waffle football too, and the West Coast Eagles, who are coming at the right time of the year. Big game tonight at Optus Stadium, 6:10 against Collingwood. Ryan Daniels, thanks for your time. Good luck with Man U. Ryan, thank you. And Andrew Embley, nice work by you. Best player on the ground, you're on a roll. Who's going to be the best player on the ground tonight?
Luke Shuey, let's go with him again.
That has been the rundown. Thanks to AGL for all your energy need. Thanks to the team. This has been the rundown for agl.com.au.